All right, this is the Math Models Unit 1, Lesson 5 video. Lesson 5 is all about relations and functions. And just to kind of briefly talk about the difference between relations and functions, is a relation is just any relation, any set of ordered pairs. It could be anything. Like they give the example, Alicia and reading, Davina and camping, Jiang and skiing. Those are a relation because each one is that person's favorite vacation activity. So any set of ordered pairs is going to be a relation. But certain relations are also what we would call a function. Okay? So what that really talks about is a certain type of relation where there is some rule or there is some sort of connection that takes you from the first value to the second value of a relation. Okay, that first value of a relation we call the domain. So the domain is the first part of any set, and the range is the second part of that set. So going back to this example they gave us up here, the Davina would be the domain, and camping would be the range of this value. So you can see the names of these people is going to be the domain, and the activity is going to be the range. So your domain and range could be anything, but when we list them, the first is the domain, the second is the range. So in this one, we have favorite activity and meal. The favorite activity, in this case reading, is the domain, and the favorite meal is tacos, or in this case, that's the range. So we have domain and range as part of a function. And so the rule about functions is really just this, that none of the domains of a function can have multiple range values. You have to be able to predict that when I choose Alicia, that she's always going to choose reading as her favorite activity. Now, obviously, we're going to do this with numbers, and that's kind of what we're going to get to. But for now, we need to understand that none of the domain values can repeat. And that is the rule when it comes to functions. That is the thing that makes a function a function. Every domain value appears only one time. But more than one person can have camping as their favorite activity, or hiking, or reading. So the range values can repeat, but the domain values cannot. So they're just going to ask us some questions about the definitions. So that's the first few questions. You're just going to use the vocabulary terms at the top of the screen. Then they say, using the table from the lesson, choose the relation of height and weight using height as the domain and weight as range. So we're going to make a bunch of points using the data from the table. And this is going to be the list for the domain, and this is going to be the list for the range. I'll erase these so it's not so confusing. So each one of these is going to end up being a point. So for instance, 60, 108, 62, 102, so on. So you need to find which one of the answer choices matches these. Well, let's just use these as our first, 60, 108, 62, 102, and go see if any of those have that. So I see 60, 108, 62, 102. So it's got to be one of these two. You'll notice this, obviously, let's go back in there. Sorry about that. Doesn't have them grouped as points. It just has them as just individual numbers. In order for it to be a relation, these have to be listed as ordered pairs. So it's got to be that one. Then it asks, does this set of ordered pairs form a function? You need to check if any of the x values appear more than once. So you just look at those and you say, are there any that are repeated? If any repeat, it means no. If there are no repeating, it means yes. So a repeating x value means the answer is no. That's how you know if it forms a function. Same thing here. Use the table from lesson 2, write a relation for height and a favorite vacation activity. These should be a list of points. with the first number being the height and the second value being the vacation activity. And they should match the table from the lesson. And then again, does it form a function? Simple question. Do any of the values for the domain repeat? If they repeat, no. Let's go up. The rest of this is simply the same idea. Select yes if the relation is a function and no if it's not. I'll say it one last time. If any of the domain values repeat, the answer is no. And that is it. That's the whole rest of this lesson. This is a table. Doesn't matter. Do any of these repeat? Do any of these repeat? Always. In order to determine if something is a function, you need to make sure no domain values repeat. And that's the end of the lesson.